Hugues van Honacker, who is the team leader, Clean Transport at the European Commission. He's going to talk about how the European Union is promoting low-emission alternate energy for transport applications.
Good afternoon. So I'm working basically in DG Transport. I'm senior expert team leader of the Clean Transport Policy. So I will explain briefly, and just to refer to the previous presentation and the film, the movie we saw on the cars, I can tell you that we are working hard on this, and there's still a lot of things to do to get to this vision. Just to start, because we recently pulled everything what European Commission is doing on low-emission transport in a document called the Low-Emission Strategy on Mobility, adopted the 20th of July. And basically in this document we have identified three pillars of working. One was the demand management, how to make efficient demand management to reduce emissions in Europe. Also the speeding up of deployment of alternative fuel vehicle in Europe, and also the third pillar was more to work on infrastructure and so on to allow to enable this deployment of low alternative fuel vehicles. But this was just a pile-up of what we are doing for a long time, and this was really not really new, because already in the Energy Union strategy of the European Union, we identified that we should further to work on CO2 emission for cars, to electrify also the transport more and more, and we have also to ensure that there is the right market conditions for promoting this kind of low emission vehicle on the road. But again, this was quite recent, but we already adopted in 2013 an alternative fuel strategy, part of the Clean Transport package in 2013, where important thing, and you can see on the slide, that we don't have a single solution for all modes of transport at this stage. We always speak about electrification of transport, but there is, as you could see this morning, there is a lot of limitation in this technology, and we believe that for mode of transport like long distance truck or maritime and so on, we need to address other solutions, and namely, for example, liquid natural gas or other biofuels for aviation, because for example for aviation there is no single alternative in the medium term that to have, for example, advanced biofuel to be mixed with the kerosene in aviation. This strategy was accompanied with a strong legislative document, which he called Directive on the Deployment of Alternative Fuel Infrastructure, basically addressing a minimum infrastructure mandate to member states on electricity, on natural gas, compressed and liquid, but also optionally on hydrogen, because we discussed this morning, and ASEA mentioned that we will have national plan, but hydrogen is still an option. And the main reason is for hydrogen is an option is because we have very little cars, if I speak and focus on cars on the market at this so far, and we believe that the investment and policy should still be responsibility of my member state to address this based on the market they foreseen on this technology. But basically we ask a minimum infrastructure, and also to come back to an important question of this morning is we have the chicken and egg issue, where investment in infrastructure is not done because there is no car on the market, and the car on the market are not able to be sold because there is no infrastructure. So the Commission indeed tackled this issue and tackled the infrastructure, but the message I want to pass is we have mandated a minimum infrastructure, but investment in infrastructure cannot be done in the future if car manufacturer are able to sell their car. Because if you invest in infrastructure and you don't have a car following the infrastructure, you have a lot of investment due to going to debt because you don't have a usage. So we believe that we need a minimum infrastructure to ensure the market take-up of vehicles, and therefore, when more and more vehicles will come up, we need to deploy more infrastructure. And this is what we address in the member state, basically, in the directive. And as you can see on these slides, we have a mandate for certain years to deploy mandate or minimal infrastructure for the different fuels. Surely, this will be addressed in national policy framework sent by the member states. The deadline is Friday this week, so it's very soon. But so far, we have received only the Slovak and the Czech national plan, so probably there will be some delay, but member states are moving on this because they need to validate this plan through the parliaments and the government, so it's quite a heavy process. And before explaining you further on this national plan, and as this conference is organized by ESMA, I also would like to point out that through the directive, we mandate also standards of interface between the infrastructure and cars. Even though for electric charging point with cable, we have already mandated a standard, we have asked the standardization body to work on the mandate on standard on induction charging and on battery swapping, but also on hydrogen and natural gas interface. This is hardware interface. So we couldn't work further on the directive on this issue, but we asked member states when they made the national plan, and this is the guideline to help member states to prepare the national policy, to address the number of cars they want to have the market. It's no point to develop infrastructure if you have no idea on the number of cars you want to have in 2020, 25 and 30. Because it's not only the infrastructure who will promote the market. You have other measures like incentive or other things, customer awareness, as mentioned by ACR this morning, that will help the market of electric car, for example. And in this respect, we have also worked on fuel price comparison, because as you know, in Europe, the price in gas is in kilo, the price in gasoline, diesel is in liter, the price of electricity is in kilowatt. So there's no way for normal user to understand what is the benefit of the price of this fuel when he want to buy an electric or hydrogen cars, because hydrogen also, I forgot to mention, is in kilo. So we are working on a methodology to be adopted by the Commission and Member States to allow to raise this user awareness of if I want to buy an electric car, for example, it costs me so much while I use it. And this is very important if you want to promote this car. We also create a sustainable transport forum with 28 member states and 32 main stakeholders in Europe to promote the implementation of this directive, but also, as I said, the standards are working only mainly on the hardware, and we asked the Sustainable Transport Forum to propose a kind of interoperable standard to allow users that in Europe they have the same way to book a charging point, to pay it, and to reserve it. Which is, at this stage, is really a nightmare, because even in one country, two cities separated by 50 kilometers doesn't use the same ID cards to book the charging point. So this is also need to be addressed at the European level. The mandate I already mentioned, that we mandate the standardization body to have standard, and I invite you, I don't know, my screen, I cannot see, but I invite you to also look at the observatory website we have, because this lists the number of cars and the number of infrastructure per country in Europe. So like this you have an idea of the market of this technology. But we also, at the European level, we also help funding the development and innovation in this field. So we have Horizon 2020, which is the framework program for research, where we fund a lot on electromobility and on hydrogen through the joint undertaking on hydrogen. We have the Green Car Initiative, which really research on alternative powertrain. We have created also an ELENA facility who will help cities to make feasibility study on how they can get loans from the European Investment Bank to develop the deployment of infrastructure in their cities. We have the European Structural Investment Funds, which is about a lot of huge money that region can use also to fund alternative fuel vehicle. But in general, we estimate 39 billion euro was available between 14 and 20 for what we call sustainable mobility in general, out of this structural fund. So you have money there, and locally people can find this money. And then we have the network, the big corridors in Europe, where also we try to deploy alternative fuel infrastructure, and cities also, main cities who are in the middle of these corridors. And finally, we have this European funding strategy on investment, which is so-called the Juncker plan, with 21 billion euro as guarantee for the European Commission. We could get 315 billion of loans for deployment of transport solution in Europe, and with a focus on innovative solutions. So, for example, ITS or alternative fuels. So this fund is guaranteed by this, as I said, 21 million. It's, as I said, also research innovation is what have key priorities. We create an advisory hub for member states and cities and stakeholders who want to address it to the European Investment Bank. So it's really powerful tool. We're starting now, and we see already concrete results. For example, there is hydrogen buses in Riga, in Estonia. No, sorry, in Letonia, in Latvia, sorry. We use this kind of support to promote a hydrogen bus in the city. And finally, we also believe that for air quality and for reducing CO2 emission, we need to address public transport in cities. Cities, for air quality mainly, wants to transform their diesel bus in zero-emission bus or cleaner bus. And they have difficulties to find manufacturers who are able in Europe to sell them cheap bus or affordable bus or even technical validated electric buses. So we also create an initiative to match the demand and offer with cities in Europe to promote alternative fuel bus and towards zero emission bus in cities, mainly to help the air quality in the city, which is the main concern in Europe. Thank you for your attention, and I don't know if we have a session of questions now, but I don't think.